They say some campgrounds were never meant to be reopened, not because of wildlife or weather, but because of what still walks there when the sun goes down. You won't find their names on modern maps, but the locals remember. Places where children's laughter isn't playful, it's bait. Where something with small hands and pitch-black eyes waits just beyond the light of your fire. Welcome to Whispers After Dark, where shadows talk and the night listens. Subscribe, like, and comment. Don't forget to hit the notification button so you won't miss an episode. Now let's get on with our story. The campground was abandoned, long shut down, left to rot where the trees reclaimed it. A weathered wooden sign still stood near the old entrance road. Whistler Bend Campground, closed. Beyond it, gravel crumbled into weeds and crooked fire rings rusted beneath layers of pine needles. A young woman named Allie had been living her life dream for nearly 6 months, traveling solo in a small, older model motorhome with her dog Nelson. She wanted to see the world, experience life. She had no family ties, so she sold everything she had, then bought her home on wheels and hit the road. She had seen an old poster for the Whistler Bend Campground at a small diner. It looked perfect. It said it offered quiet, secluded campsites, showers, a small lake, and a place to do laundry. That first night, she pulled in late, just before dusk. The only sounds were the wind through the trees and the crunch of her tires over broken gravel. The campground was abandoned. There was an old ranger cabin nearby, half collapsed. The windows were busted out, the front steps tilting away from the door like the forest itself wanted to drag it under. Nearby, the remains of public toilets sat in disrepair, overtaken by moss and mildew. But Allie wasn't bothered. It just meant she would save money on camping fees. The water faucet still worked, so she filled up her water tank, took a shower, and made dinner. Afterwards, she lit a small fire, fed Nelson, and turned in early. The forest was still. The air was crisp. She slept soundly. The next morning, she washed clothes in a bucket and hung them to dry. She watched Nelson chase squirrels while she ate breakfast. Afterwards, she threw sticks into the small lake for Nelson to fetch. Then they explored the small campground. As twilight deepened, Allie sat near the fire with Nelson lying beside her, head on his paws. The campground was deathly quiet. No owls, no crickets, just the sound of the fire popping. And then whispers. Not voices from afar, not animals, but children's whispers. Soft, careful, like secrets being passed between invisible mouths just beyond the tree line. Nelson perked up, ears forward, a low growl building in his throat. Allie turned her head toward the woods, but saw nothing. The whispers stopped. She stared into the dark a little longer before putting the fire out early and locking the motorhome tight. Inside, Nelson wouldn't rest until the lantern was on. They didn't hear the whispers again that night, but the silence felt heavier. It was almost completely dark on the third night when the first knock came. Gentle, deliberate. Right at the side door of the camper, Allie stood still, listening. Then she pulled the curtain back just a few inches. 2 children stood outside, a boy and a girl, pale, motionless, head slightly tilted forward. Their clothing was wrong, old-fashioned, like something from a thrift store no one had been in for decades, and their eyes, pitch black, solid, shiny, empty. They spoke in unison. "Can we come in?" Allie backed away from the window. Nelson began to growl again, low and dangerous. Suddenly, banging erupted from all sides of the motorhome, fists pounding the metal, nails dragging along the side panels, taps at the windows, slow and rhythmic. For hours, it came and went. Laughter, knocking, whispers. At one point, the children called out to the dog, in that same flat, mechanical voice. Allie tried to start the motorhome twice. The engine turned, then died. Again and again. No signal on her phone. No way to call for help. She stayed on the floor with Nelson beside her all night, holding her breath with each noise. But finally, sunrise came. The knocking stopped. The woods grew still again, and the engine started, on the very first try. She left the motor running and quickly packed the few items outside. A short time later, Allie pulled into a weathered old gas station a few miles past the turnoff to the campground. An old man came out to pump the gas. He didn't say much until he rounded the side of the motorhome. Then he paused. "You camp out at Whistler Bend?" he asked. Allie nodded slowly. "Place is abandoned for a reason. You're lucky you made it out at all." He pointed to the side of the camper. Pressed into the dust, clear as day, tiny blackish-gray handprints. Dozens of them, all around the door, too small to belong to anyone else, too many to forget. Next time you want to find a quiet place to camp, remember some campgrounds were closed for a reason. Some trails never should have been cleared. And some visitors don't knock just to be let in. Allie quietly handed him the money for the gas. In her rearview mirror, she swore she saw 2 children wave, clothing old and ragged and eyes too dark to forget. Truth or legend? Some say the black-eyed children are just another campfire tale, urban myth passed around on internet threads and late-night podcasts. But others, they've heard the knocking, seen the handprints, felt something watching from just beyond the shadows. Legends and truth are often hard to separate because every legend begins somewhere with something. Every myth has a beginning. Every whispered tale is born from something. But these stories were born from my own imagination. Many believe the children are out there, watching, waiting. So if you ever find yourself on a back road, passing a faded campground sign with no name left to read, keep driving, because some stories aren't meant to be found. And some children should never be let in. Thanks for watching this episode of Whispers After Dark. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think there's truth to the legends? And be sure to join me next time for another eerie journey into the unknown. Until then, stay curious, stay cautious, and beware of the whispers after dark.